you should be asking more, you should be learning more, you should be doing so much more, right? That you end up killing your best ideas from time to time. If you struggle to own that identity of yours, that enoughness, right? You need to first know, what does I am enough means to you? Can I ask you this question? What does I am enough means to you? Okay, so let me give you my definition, okay? I'm enough simply means self-acceptance. Being able to accept myself wholeheartedly, including my flaws, my imperfections, the mistakes that I made, means I'm enough. Because there will never be if it's always about postponing your worthiness to the future, it means when I will be worthy enough when I hit my round table. After round table, you want to be COT. After COT, you want to be TOT. Does that make sense? Then you will never be enough, right? So I want you to be able to tell yourself, be able to feel that you are enough, right? You know, by letting go what other people think of you first, and own your identity, right? Own your identity simply just means self-acceptance. Yeah.
Just now Dylan said this, right? If you have to postpone your worthiness, it means that after you finish DRT, you need to do COT. After you need to do COT, you need to do TOT. This is where the magic comes in. If you need to do COT to be worthy, you will never be able to do it. Because the sense of condemnation each time you fail in the step to do it, in the step by step to do it, will cause you to not want to do it anymore. If you need it to be worthy, each time a person laps your case or a person says no to you, or whatever it is that stops you from getting the goal, you'll feel condemned by it. Because the opposite of worthiness is condemnation. But that's where the magic comes in. If you don't really care about the COT, you just care about doing your job well, the COT comes by the way. How come it comes by the way? Simple. Because all you wanted to do was impact 120 lives this year. And by virtue of 120 lives, you by the way hit COT. And why do you want to impact 120 lives? Because you are worthy of impacting 120 lives. That's what Dylan meant just now by identity creates action, action creates feeling. Have you understand this part? So what I wanted to interject here is because I saw in the chat, Marcus Wright agreed. It's because you should not be doing COT to prove your worth. You are worthy, just do whatever you need to. By the way, you hit it, right? Because most of you are not doing what are taught to you because of this part. The sense of condemnation keeps coming in.
Okay, before we go into how we can engage the world, from a place of worthiness, we got to talk about the things that get in the way first, especially shame, fear, resistance to vulnerability. And this is something that I want to encourage all of you to do, which is something you can practice, right? Is find someone that you trust, someone who earns the right to talk about things like that. Okay, we're going to go deeper into this. The first thing I want to talk about is shame, right? Okay, so according to the author says that the one thing that gets in the way of developing courage, developing compassion, developing connection, the one thing that gets in the way is shame. So shame keeps worthiness away by convincing us, right, that our own identity, owning that our own story or identity will lead to people thinking less of us. So the point I want to make is this. Having problems in your life is not the issue. Having shame is the real issue. Because problems in life, sometimes we even like them because it challenges us to be better, to want to do more, it pushes us forward. But on the other hand, shame is that thing that holds us back, that stops us from taking action, right? So for example, right, practicing courage sounds great, right? We need to talk about, how it requires us to be vulnerable and, willing to let go of what other people think of us, right? That one is scary, right? Compassion, right? We all want to have more compassion. But we need to look into why being kinder and firmer is a critical component of compassion. Right, connection, same thing, right? Are you willing to say no even if it means to disappoint someone? We can go deeper about shame on the next slide. So what is shame? Shame is this, right? Write this down. Shame is the fear of being fully known and not being fully loved. In fact, if you look at the definition of what the author says about shame from her research, the fact is that we are afraid that people will not like us if they know the truth about us. In short, if you want to write this down as well, which is shame is basically the fear of being unlovable, right? It is the opposite of the feeling of worthiness. So I want to cover 3 things that we need to know about shame first before we talk about how to overcome shame. Is that number 1, we all have shame. We all have it, right? Shame is universal, right? It's a human emotion that we experience, right? If you find anyone that has no shame, right? The people who don't experience shame at all, right? Basically lacks the capacity for empathy and human connection. Okay, so number two, right? We are all afraid to talk about shame, and the problem with that is that the less we talk about shame, the more it controls our life. Okay, so the good news is that if we all have shame, the good news is that we are all capable of developing this thing called shame resilience. We're going to talk about that. So we cannot get rid of shame. We can only develop resilience to shame. And the first thing we need to understand about shame resilience is that the less we talk about it, the more we have it. The less we talk about shame, the more we have it. So like what the author says over here, right? Shame needs three things to grow out of control in our life: secrecy, silence, and judgment. When something is shameful happens, right, and we lock it up, right, it starts to fester and grow. So my point here is that we need to share our experiences, but the point is, don't share with everybody, like share with people that you trust, okay? So he says over here, shame happens between people, it heals within people. So we need to find someone who have earned the rights to hear our story. So I want you to write this down, right? Shame loses power when it is spoken. So if you have that part in you, right, something about you that you feel shameful about, find someone that you trust, someone who has earned the right, who is a compassionate, who has the empathy for you, right, to speak the truth. And then you realize, right, shame loses power when it is spoken. And I really encourage you to talk to your leaders, talk to your trusted colleagues. Whenever you have that prospect or you have that candidate, that you couldn't reach out or you couldn't speak to, because of certain experiences that you had, so that you can develop this resilience in you. The other thing that I want to cover about shame is this, right? What's the opposite of shame? Opposite of shame is charisma. Or what is charisma? Charisma happens when a person can share their problem in a shameless plus solution-focused manner. You want me to repeat, right? Charisma happens when a person can share their problem in a shameless and solution-focused manner, in an SS manner in short. SS manner, shameless plus solution-focused manner. That is what everybody wants to be like, right? Everybody wants to be able to be honest and open, to share their problems, right? And that's why, people, we find people who we want to be like, and that's why it's called charismatic. So I want you to write this down as well, right? Which is like, when people always think about two things when they look at you, whenever you text them or reach out to them at work or, in your personal life. Two questions, okay? Do I want to be with you? Question number one. Number two, do I want to be like you? Charisma makes people want to be like or be with them. So you guys can write down, charisma equals shameless sharing with a solution as a focus. Okay, so if you want to develop charisma, you realize that those people are really charismatic, right? You admire them because they are able to be vulnerable, yet at the same time, in a very solution-focused manner. Okay, cool. So let me move on to the next slide. Okay, so is there a difference between guilt and shame? Okay, I wanted to cover this because there's a difference between identity and behavior. Okay, in our theme for today's book review is action. There's a difference between actions and identity. So shame is about who we are. Guilt is about what we do. Okay, we feel guilty when we hold up something, or when we have done something wrong, or we have failed to do something against the kind of person we want to be. It is an uncomfortable feeling, but guilt can be a helpful one. Why? Because guilt is very often the motivator for us to apologize for something we have done, to make amendments, to change a behavior that we don't feel good about. But shame, on the other hand, right, is destructive, because shame holds us back from believing that we can change or we can do better. So people who use more shameful self-talk, right, like saying that I'm bad, I'm lousy, I'm not good enough, right, they struggle with the issue of self-love, right, or self-hating. Especially if you think about it, if when a parent uses shame to parent a child, right, it essentially teaches the child that they are not worthy of love. Be very careful with your self-talk, right? What you tell yourself, right? And that's the difference between you did something bad and I am bad, right? Because it's easy to change what you did bad, but it's harder to change who you are. Does that make sense? Cool. So let me move on to the next one, which is okay. Cool. This is something. This is an advice, right? Given to me, I think 4 or 5 years ago, in one of the SPC. CK actually gave me this advice in an ang pao, right? written in a note. And the advice is this: there's a difference between be myself and I'm like that one. What's the difference between be myself and I'm like that one? So what's the difference? Be myself actually means two things. Number one, you being the best version of yourself, and it means you have accepted yourself, and the acceptance gives you the courage to improve. Whereas, right, I am like that one means there's no better version to look forward to. I'm like that one means there's no better version to look forward to. It indicates a lack of acceptance. Why? Because you scared people judge you. Therefore, you don't have the courage to improve. And because you don't have the courage to improve, you need an excuse to tell people. And the excuse is this: I'm like that one. Right? Do I want to pay it forward to you and share this advice with you as well? To tell you that while we embrace our imperfection and recognize that we are enough, it doesn't mean that we don't improve. It doesn't mean that we don't grow. It only means that we have accepted ourselves, and even when we allow ourselves to be known, right, we are still worthy of love. So I just want to let you know, being myself doesn't mean I don't change, I don't improve. It means I've accepted myself and I want to be the best version of myself. So coming to that, right, there's this question I want to ask you: if you could change one thing about yourself, what would it be? You don't have to tell me, okay? Don't have to tell me, just write it on your notes, right? Think about that, go on to that, right? And I want you to ask yourself, what's holding you back from changing? Whatever it is, there's a reason why it's not changed, isn't it? Chances are you are probably stuck somewhere, right? There are certain obstacles you are facing. Yes. So the fact is, change is not something that happened once and then everything is complete and perfect, right? There is a process for continuous transformation. So as you go through this process of transformation to be, more compassionate, more connected, to be more courageous, each time you go through this process, you will discover the deepest truth of yourself. And I want to share this process with you. There's actually 5 levels of change. I call it the 5 A's of change. If you struggle to make certain adjustments in your life, it doesn't mean you have not changed. Chances are you're probably stuck at one of these levels, right? First level, right? Awareness. Are you aware that you need to change? Right? Are you aware why you need to change? Do you have a reason to change? Because people don't change. People don't change because they are not aware that they need to change in the first place. Right? Number 2, acceptance. Right? Have you accepted yourself, your flaws? Have you accepted that this thing needs to change? Right? People don't change because they have not accepted that this is something they need to change. Thirdly, this is most of the time, most people are stuck at this one, right? Have you allowed yourself to change? What do I mean? Right? Have you allowed yourself to make mistakes? Have you allowed yourself to be bad at it at first? Right? Have you allowed yourself to give yourself that permission to take action? People usually stuck at this level because there is this fear of failure, fear of judgment, fear of making mistakes. Right? You got to learn how to allow yourself to do that. Right? And after you have allowed yourself, you start taking action. Right? That will be the 4th step. You have to take action. But many times when people start taking action, they still haven't feel that they have changed because they have not reached at the last step at the identity level, right? They have admitted that they have changed, that I'm different. So with this process of transformation, remember that it's perfectly okay, if you are not at, the last stage yet, right? It doesn't mean that you have not changed. Probably having awareness itself today, to me, is a very huge achievement, really. That you guys at least know that there are certain areas that I'm stuck at, and this is certain things I need to work on in the next few months. And I want you to rank this according to this table, all right? So it could be something you want to work on in terms of being kinder and firmer with yourself, right? Maybe you're too kind, less firm, or maybe you're too firm, less kind, right? Which stage are you at? I want you to rank it according to, are you at the aware stage, accept stage, allow stage, action stage, or admit stage? Talk to your leader about it. There are things that you feel shameful about, but you want to be more charismatic. You want to be able to share your problems shamelessly in a solution-focused manner, right? And you need some action steps to do that. You can talk to your leaders about that.
Remember, everyone, we always tell you that we not only want you to be a public success, we also hope that you can be a private success. It means in your private lives that nobody knows of. It cannot be on social media. Nobody praises you, but your private life is also important to you, right? Are there things in your private life that you want to put inside for yourself also? It might not have to be job related, okay? Although this is a job related book review. Let me explain why. Because I think a well-balanced person will naturally do their job better. I repeat, a well-balanced person in their private life will naturally make their public lives better. When I use the word naturally, it means almost effortlessly. It's just like fruits grow out of a tree naturally. You got see fruit do that or not? I want to grow out. Never, right? Never hear strawberry say that before, right? Now, why? Because it is a natural result of something else. It is a fruit, not a root. Understand? Understand? Maybe, everyone. The reason why you're not doing better in your job is because you're not doing better in your private life. It could be, I don't know, or vice versa. I don't know. Everyone. The thing here is, my point to you is, take the chance you print screen this, really set aside some time to ask yourself this question. Okay, because Dylan and I, we fully intend to be true to our words. Meaning, even if this whole thing, the whole categories has nothing to do with work, it has to solve your life's problem. So be it. You want to find somebody at work, someone who has earned your trust to listen to it. So be it.
All right. So okay, so this is one of the there's actually 10 guides in this book. If you read it, right, I selected a few that speaks to me, that I feel that I want to share with you. And one of the guide posts that I want to cover is cultivating authenticity. So if you realize, each guide post, right, there's 2 actions. First action is cultivating. The second action is letting go. So in this guide post, the authors spoke about cultivating authenticity and letting go of what people think. The challenge comes when, many of us, we ask you to be authentic, we ask you to let go of what people think, and then you started to have this self-talk of, what if I think I'm enough, but other people don't think that I'm enough? What if I let my imperfect self be seen and known? Nobody likes what they see.